It's a pleasure for me to welcome the fastest guy in the entire world, Robert Kallin, all the way from Sweden. Robert, how are the legs?
Yeah, thank you for having me. The legs are still pretty sore from the race, so...
Maybe if some people watch along haven't heard about you before, I hardly doubt it, but it's actually not the first time that you have gone sub 4 hours. You did that already 2 years ago, I believe, in Hamburg, so you knew that you had the ability to go fast, right?
Yeah, last year I did it in Hamburg.
Oh, that was last year, yeah?
Yeah, so I know that I had it in me, and I've been working on the aerodynamic this year and also improved my numbers on the bike. So I knew that I was stronger and faster than last year. So it was not a really big surprise that I went sub 4 again. But yeah, the course and the circumstances around the race must be right as well. And this Sunday they were.
We're going to talk more details in a little while, but if we look at your race resume, you didn't race too much last year, actually only 2 races, and yeah, as you said, the last one was Hamburg. Was that due to injury or what happened?
Yeah, last year my later part of the season was destroyed by an injury, so I did Hamburg and then challenge Vansbro in Sweden, and after that, quite soon after that, I got an injury, so I couldn't run for like 3 months or something.
Wow, okay.
And then yeah, so then I slowly started running again in beginning of November, so then I had no chance to do any more races last year.
But what I'm wondering here is if this injury also maybe made you ride a little bit more or work a little bit more on your aerodynamics?
Yeah, it could be. Like when you stop running, at least for me, it's like you give yourself 10 watts for free because you focus more on the bike and don't destroy them on the run. So for like the month when I was when I didn't run, I did my more of the hours on the bike and felt really strong there, and continued to build that in the winter when I could start running again. So yeah, maybe that was a part of it that I was injured.
For all the fans out there, a guy like you riding on your level, how much is a typical bike week due to mileage, intensity, and if you're injured and you even up it a little bit, how much were you riding in those months?
When I was injured, it was maybe like 20 hours plus of riding. Yeah. And now it's maybe 15 to 18 maybe. So quite much still.
So do you count distance or hours in a certain intensity? How do you count your training?
Mostly in hours and hours in higher intensity. So not much in distance, since I'm doing half of the year indoors. That's not so good to do distance then, because then you have nothing to compare with.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I do.
I had some of the other guys on the show here, and they actually a lot of them prefer to do indoor training. We have Scandinavian summer here. Why don't you just go out and ride? But many of these guys they really prefer. Of course, if you live in a big city like Copenhagen, it takes 1 hour to get outside of the city. But the focus and the intensity you can have on the turbo. Do you have it like that as well?
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
Like even on the longer sessions, it's easier to have like the correct nutrition with you, and you can fuel up as you want. And you don't have to stop to fill up water and energy. You can have it from the beginning, and you can just ride in your own pace and don't have any traffic lights, cars, etc. So it's more precise and you can do it exactly as you want.
I have to mention your coach, longtime coach, Bjorn Andersson. And for you people who are new to the sport, Bjorn was an absolute beast on the bike like 15 to 20 years ago. I think he was the first guy to go sub 2 hours on the 70.3, and I think he at one time he led Ironman New Zealand by 20 minutes. I mean, his bike stood alone for 20 minutes in T2, so he was so strong, and of course, as we can see, he has transferred a little bit of his knowledge to you. So without maybe giving too much info away, what do you think are some of the things he has taught you and that you have brought along and we see in your riding today or your training today?
I think that he maybe can like transform and not do the same arrows as he did. So he learned maybe a bit from himself and his racing, and can use that for me. So that's a good thing. And I also, as you mentioned, we are working some years together now, I think since 2018, and we have got to learn each other more and more. And for this season, we have taken a bit of a different approach for the winter. So we have learned from the previous years what's working for me. So that's also a part of why I feel stronger this year, that we have taken a good part and know what's working for me and implemented that more in the winter this year.
Can you give me just one example of a thing that, okay, we have to maybe put this thing away, and maybe just one example so people know what you're talking about?
Previously we went like into higher intensity in the beginning of the winter, and then worked towards like threshold and sweet spot and so on, closer to race. This year we only got down to like threshold and not any harder than that. So we had more threshold sessions, and also like when they are not that high in intensity, you can also have like more hours. So a bit more hours and a bit more like threshold and lower intensity intervals during the winter as well.
People have seen you race, but you are a fairly tall Swedish guy. I'm a bit curious here. Your thresholds, are we talking about 350 watts? What are some of the numbers without giving away all your secrets? What are we talking here?
It's more than that. I can tell you.
Okay, it's more than that. Okay, so that's just your. That's a pace that you can hold for most of an Ironman, maybe.
Or like threshold for me is like 1 hour power.
Oh,
so
that's for 1 hour.
That's not what I want to hold for an Ironman. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're talking about the higher threshold and not the lower one.
What we call hit intervals. I mean, the extremely high, you have dialed back from that, and then focused more on the thresholds. Should be more race specific. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's more like race specific, and also, as I mentioned, when you do like higher intensity, you can't do that much hours, because then it's not, then you don't get the benefits from the intervals. So when you're doing thresholds and slower or lower intensity, then you can do also more hours. So that's a part of the thing as well, I think.
Besides the specific training, I saw on Instagram that you have been working hard on your cockpits or your frame. Can you talk about that a little bit? Were you working with some specialists?
Well, I've been working with Frank Pedals. It's like a company that normally do swim pedals, so they're not specialized in cockpits or bike parts yet, at least. Maybe they will this autumn. They have announced they will maybe do some bike parts as well. But I've been working with him, got a contact. He's from Sweden as well, not that far from me. So we started to talk to each other and think of how we could produce some cockpit that would be more aero, but also more comfortable for me, because as you said, I'm really tall and want to have more support for the arms than I had previously. Before I was laying just on the top of the air bars, and that was not that comfortable in 4 hours. And now I have fully support for the full lower arm, and that's really comfortable. So
you had Ironman Texas a few months back. So was this the first time that you had this set up?
No, I used it in Texas as well.
Okay. So can you really feel a difference that you are able to stay aero for a longer time than you were before, maybe?
Yeah, I can totally feel.
You can say, okay, if you can push higher numbers, that's really good. But if you can stay aero and stay there without your back starting to ache and stuff like that, that's super positive. So do you think that that you are all dialed in, or will you continue to work on fine tuning your frame and cockpit in the off season?
No, I will continue to work with it.
That's a work in progress.
I have a friend I'm gonna do some aero testing to see how the shape could develop, and other things that I have in mind. So I have a few things that I want to test out in the field.
And of course, we're also very happy that you represent the Fusion speed suit or the Tempo suit.
Yeah.
Very good TV time you gave the suit there. That's perfect, Robert. Let's talk about the race itself, because that was super crazy. If you want to have a fast split, one of the best things are that you have fast guys to go with you. Christian Høgenhaug and Sam Laidlow were two of the guys. So can you explain what happened after you guys came out from T1 and the entire ride from your point of view?
I think Høgenhaug was a bit behind after the swim, like 30 seconds or 1 minute. So I actually didn't see him before the run. But I was up with a pretty large group, around maybe 10, 15 guys, and with Laidlow and Richard Varga in front of us. So thought that I wanted to bridge up to Laidlow pretty fast and with as few guys as possible. So in the beginning I pushed pretty hard to join them. Yeah. And it was actually easier than not easier than I thought, but it went quicker than I thought it would be.
Okay. So you had to push lower numbers than expected, or was it more you simply felt great?
I didn't push lower number really, but maybe it took less time than I thought. For example, in Texas, it took longer to reach the front. But here was another course as well. It was not that flat, so it was more of a power course, you could say, not just aero. Maybe suited me more. And when I reached the front, I saw that I didn't have that many with me, so I started. I continue to be in the front and push some good numbers and try to be aero and go fast. And after something, I think Sipunke came up and went into the front. And exactly when he came up to me, I lost 2 bottles. So
I lost 2 bottles? Okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Quite a amount of energy there, which was not that good for the later part of the race. But I thought I would take it in on the station, but that was harder than I thought, since the water bottles was just filled with not any carbs. They were filled with water and sodium. And so I had a bit less carbs than I wanted on the bike, and that maybe affected the later part of the bike and also the run.
So you had to make a quick decision, turn around to get the bottles, and or just continue. And besides from that, you also have the really strict littering rule. So what did you do?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like a part of the race situation, I guess. Yeah. If you don't think so much, you just continue. I try to take in more fuels on the station instead. But they were pretty high concentration in those bottles. So it was hard to take in that much in the stations to refill them or to get the same amount.
But that's super interesting, because we have this interview because we're talking about a very fast bike split here, and now you're telling me that things actually didn't really go to plan. Like, it wasn't super perfect, because if you have to go into 8 stations instead of taking your own energy, that's 30 seconds, 10 seconds that you lose each time.
That's a few seconds there, and also maybe a few seconds from actually, like the 2 first lap, I think I had average of 46.6 k per hours. So if I would keep that, it would be even faster, the bike course record, or the record. But I faded a bit in the end. Like, started to feel that I didn't get enough of carbs during the race or during the bike.
The splits where you took the front for good, was that the infamous penalty situation with Sam Laidlow? What can you recall what exactly happened there when you rode away from the group?
I don't know exactly when I rode away, because I didn't try to make any gap or something. I just looked back after a while and didn't see anyone. It was not exactly where Laidlow got the penalty, I think, at least. I think it was a bit later than that. But he got the penalty after 1 lap, and I think that I got gap around 1.5 lap.
Yeah. So what runs through your minds when you turn back and see Sebunke, Høgenhaug, Laidlow, 3 of the absolute monsters on the bike, like easily top 10 guys in the world? Can't see them anywhere. Do you keep the pace, or do you push it even harder?
No, I try to just keep the pace, since obviously it worked before, since they lost me. So I just try to hold my pace and hold my numbers, because then I know that I could even increase the...
Then you went for the run, of course, and that looked actually pretty good going into the run. And I'm not joking here. You actually did, but it was not until after the race that I could see that you were actually injured. You haven't been running for a few weeks at least before this Ironman.
Oh yes, 1 week actually.
Oh, just 1 week, but you had.
Yeah, I didn't feel so much during the race, but during the race week, I felt like an increasing amount of pain in like knee or lower leg. But it was so much adrenaline and other things on the race, so I don't think that actually affected the run so much. I think it was more like an energy deficit, and also like leg fatigue in the end, the heat. So maybe not the injuries so much during the race, maybe just the preparation before, and now I have to deal with it afterwards.
Exactly.
Also.
But I think you ran a 3:03, and that's what's that? 4:15 per kilometer. So it's not terrible, I would say. At least if you go the speed on the bike that you did. So what do you think? What's your evaluation on your marathon?
That it was very hard. I just tried to get in as much water and energy as possible in the beginning, and try to bounce back somehow. But it didn't work this time. So it feels like I had a really good swim and bike, and it would be so cool to put all together in one race. And but not this time maybe, but hopefully some other time. In
these years, you are so many pro guys drafting incidents without maybe doing it intentionally will occur, and you could see some of these guys, they had just a pinpoint on Cameron Worth, taking him to T2, and you could just see that they were hanging on him for dear life, and then running, you sub 240, some of these guys. Is that something that you think about after the race? Well, if I'm going to benefit from my hard work on the bike, I have to maybe find a course where people have to work harder, where people don't can come to T2 this easily? I don't know. Is that something you reflect on even?
No, not yet, at least.
Not yet. Okay, no.
Maybe I'll have to take that into consideration for the next race, but haven't thought of it in that way, because I like when it's fast as well. I think I race my best races when it's a fast course, and maybe like this one when it's a bit rolling it. Also, I like it when it's.
But you do a super great job. But I'm just curious because you finish in 8th position, which it's not bad in such a strong field. But I just considering your fantastic swim and bike splits, but I think maybe that's also just because the races. Yeah, in these years when we have the Pro Series, things get more competitive than ever before.
Yeah, the level of racing is so high now.
It is.
So you have to put together a really good race overall, and not just a swim bike race. So that's something I have to.
Kona, is that still in the mix for you? Or?
I qualified in Texas, so I will do Kona later.
Okay, because how many slots were there? Because you actually had a 5th place with that, so there were maybe 5 slots, or maybe someone were already qualified.
In Texas, there were 6 ones in Texas. It was
because of the regional
championships.
Of course, that's great. So you are all set for that?
Yeah, that will be my next long distance race. Before that, I will do 2 70.3s to do the full Pro Series. When I put together the race for this season, I try to optimize the full distance races and try to spread them out during the year. So I had Texas in the beginning, and then this one in like the middle, and Kona in the end, and then the 70.3s had to be around them. And so I will do Tallinn and Selamsi in late August and beginning of the September. So they are pretty easy to get to in Europe, and also fits in time wise.
If we look at some of the races that you had, like Texas and this one in Spain, where you are really dominating and really a force, and maybe look at a really big championship race like Kona, have you and your coach thought about how you can transfer your strong sides to, for instance, a race like Kona, or is the dynamic just so different that you just can't take those two and compare, do the same thing? I don't know.
Yeah, we have thought of it a bit, but now the Pro Race series is it's quite high good field. In those, so it's like a small world championship every race, and that's like a good training for Kona, I think. And I think the heat will be. That was like the first time I raced in really high heat and humidity in Kona last year. So I had really good learnings from then, and also Texas, and try to implement the learnings from those 2 races into Kona this year. And I think that will be a really good benefit improvement from last time.
Are you in saunas after each swim session, or what do you do training without no fan? What do you actually do to prepare for the heat?
Since I'm living in Sweden, we have to do it indoors. And as you said, I don't do saunas. I do a lot of clothes and no fan on the bikes, for an hour or the end of a bike ride. And try to bring up the court temperature.
A tall guy like you, have you measured how much, how can I say, your sweat rate? Because of course it's if you are a heavy sweater, it's super important to hydrate. But for some people it's almost impossible to drink that much. So have you completely measured how much you sweat and how salty your sweat is, stuff like that?
Not in a long time, and also
Okay.
like that is like it's different due to the weather and other circumstances, and also if you might acclimatize for the heat as well. So yeah, I haven't like.
Okay. Are you going to Kona like 3 weeks before, or what's the plan to be as prepared as possible?
Yeah, I haven't decided yet, but at least I'm going to a warmer place, maybe like around 3 weeks in advance, and then I haven't decided if it will be Kona or some other place. But yeah, I will try to do my last prep or last hard training sessions in the heat. That's much easier to get used to it than on the turbo at home.
And of course, the Danes, the top Norwegians, they are all about altitude, going to Fondremø, maybe sleeping in altitude tents. Has that come to Sweden yet?
No, actually not. Like I think that, or at least my coach think that you lose like some part of your power because you have to be on lower power on higher altitude. That could be even more important to keep your power than to raise your VO2 a few percent. So yeah, really? I've stay on the lower ground.
That's fairly interesting that you have this firm belief. So it's you haven't considered just to try it out. Maybe you are a super high responder and just I don't know, fire on all cylinders. But at least not for now.
No, not for now. I've done it before. Like okay. I was in Flagstaff for a couple of weeks for 2 years ago.
Yeah. In Göteborg, where you live in Sweden, are there some other professionals that you can that you on your level at least that you can train with? Are you pretty much by yourself over there?
It's pretty much by myself. Yeah.
Fantastic!
So I can train when I want and do my own sessions.
Yeah, it's a lone wolf. It's such a shame that the Danes lost these battles back in the 1700s. Denmark and Sweden, they because where you live were actually used to be Danish back in the days. So we could have had a fantastic athlete there. Instead, we have to borrow you here on this podcast, and we are super happy about that. My final question. I think that Ironman is doing a terrific job. They have really upped their game promoting a result like you. Like if you go super fast like you did in Sunday, they have reels. You are promoted. So have you felt people reaching out to you asking about this maybe a little bit more than you used to? When you do a great result?
Yes, maybe a bit more. For me, it's like this was a good swim bike result, but yeah, triathlon-wise, it was not maybe my best performance. So yeah, it's a bit more than I thought maybe.
I think there are people out there who love geeking out, and of course we see what do you call it? The bar. It's set higher for almost every race this season. You saw in Texas, we haven't heard about Thomas Rodriguez before, comes down from altitude in Mexico and run, I don't know, almost he was on pace for sub 2:30, and then maybe people were talking about Magnus or Sam Laidlow trying to maybe be the next guys who set a new bike record. But hello, we have a guy from Sweden who can go even faster. So that was great, and I think it's great that we have new names also in the mix for the sport at least.
Hopefully I will be in the mix for the whole race next time.
Yeah, fantastic. So you talked about that you have a couple of races. So when is your next race coming up? Is that in a few months or when?
Yeah, it's in the end of August in 70.3 Tallinn.
But it could be a little bit fun to have the bike record on the full, on the half as well. So maybe you should.
I have to look this up.
Yeah, or write to Thorsten on try rating to be absolutely sure, because I know that there's been some insane splits. I think around 1 hour and 50 maybe, but I'm not absolutely sure that they are 90 kilometers. Might be a bit shorter. Robert, thank you so much for your time and for sharing some details about that race and what you've been doing lately.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And you guys watching, will be back with even more content very soon. So yeah, stay tuned.